Hello and welcome to our reflection for today. My name's Amy and I'm a member of the church family here at Holy Trinity. And you're joining us today on Holy Saturday, maybe one of the lesser dwelled upon parts of Holy Week, one of the parts we sometimes race through from all of the chaos and sorrow that happens on Good Friday, jumping through to the hope and celebration that we know is coming on Easter Sunday. If you are joining us for the first time today, I'd really encourage you to have a look back through some of the other thoughts and reflections that we've shared this week. Holy Week really is a roller coaster of emotions, and we would love to know that you have journeyed that with us.
And now we're coming to a gospel reading from St. John, starting at chapter 19, beginning at verse 38 and continuing to the end. The burial of Jesus. Later, Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly, because he feared the Jewish leaders. With Pilate's permission, he came and he took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who had earlier visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen.
I've been reflecting on this passage we just had read from John chapter 19, and I've just been captivated by trying to put myself in the shoes of the disciples and thinking about how they would have been feeling on this very first Holy Saturday. Yesterday and Good Friday, all that we thought about then must have been utter chaos for them. Even though so much of what was happening around them was seemingly normal. I mean, crucifixion would have been a fairly familiar practice for them. Even the release of the prisoner would have been a really familiar and helpful rhythm in their tradition. Yet, as ever with suffering, whenever it becomes personal, whenever it's someone we know or love, or even ourselves going through a period of suffering, it can feel like your world is in utter chaos and is crumbling down around you, whereas if you just look outside of your situation, it's as if the rest of the world can somehow carry on as normal. So we join the disciples today. Jesus has died. They've lost their leader. Not only was he their leader, he'd been teaching, investing in them, but he was also their friend. They'd been doing life together for years, and it was quite an adventure. If you read back through the Gospels, there was very rarely a dull moment. They'd also lost their leader, their friend Jesus, with nothing to really warrant his death. There was no charge they could bring against him that was worthy of crucifixion, yet he'd been taken away from them. And not only this, earlier on in the week they'd realised that one of their friends, one of their trusted group, had betrayed them. Judas had betrayed the disciples and Jesus when he sold Jesus out to the Romans. And now they find themselves on this Saturday, the Sabbath day, a period of enforced rest, a rhythm they'd have been really used to, time taken away to spend reflecting, drawing closer to God. Because it's a Sabbath, only the bare minimum can be done. So we heard in our passage that Jesus' body was laid in the tomb at the beginning of the Sabbath. And now on this Saturday, they find themselves unable to keep themselves distracted. They can't go to work, they can't do any of the things they may have wanted to do. I imagine that the disciples find themselves feeling really frightened, that the same people who have just crucified Jesus would now be after them. They've been linked with him, they've been travelling with him, and they would be fearful that these people would now be coming to get them next. I imagine that they would want to gather together in a group, safety in numbers maybe to grieve the loss of their friend together. But also there's just a really nice familiarity to being around those that have a shared experience, that believe in the same things as you. And they can't do this because it's the Sabbath. I'd also imagine that the disciples just want to do something helpful. They want to maybe do something that would honour Jesus' life. They might want to just keep themselves distracted, keep themselves busy, and they can't. Instead, they find themselves in this enforced pattern of rest. After all the chaos of Good Friday, but before the celebration of Easter. But it's much easier for us. We've celebrated Easter for years. We know that Sunday is coming. But imagine what it would have felt like for the disciples on this very first Holy Saturday, before Jesus has risen. It might be helpful for us to reflect. I don't know whether, like me, you found yourself with a massive change of pace in your life. Everything's been different, and we find ourselves in somewhat an enforced period of rest or an enforced change to life, whatever your circumstances. So on this Holy Saturday, how are you going to give God space and time in this new pace of life? Maybe try and put yourself in the shoes of the disciples. Think about how they might have been feeling when you take some time out on this Holy Saturday to deepen your relationship with God, drawing closer to the God that, as we remember today, on that first Easter had not yet risen. Maybe if you don't have a relationship with God, today might be a chance just to take some time and space to thrash out what your questions might be about Him. If you've got a friend that's a Christian, maybe ask them some of the questions. They'd love to help you answer them. So today, Holy Saturday. Sunday is coming, but we have to remember that Saturday happened. How could we take some time and space to deepen our relationship with God today?
Fight still.